because this matter there is a prima facie case of cyber bullying and stalking against the defendants, the SSG of Enugu State. So that is why we charge a substantive charge to prosecute the defendant. So we are waiting for a date that the court will fix for the defendant to take his plea.
Speaking to journalists after the sitting, Defense Counsel Frank Ogbowo disclosed that the legal team had formally withdrawn the initial bail application and will file a fresh motion properly anchored on the substantive charge. He, however, alleged that the delay in proceedings was deliberate, accusing the state government of actions aimed at frustrating the release of the defendant.
When somebody wants to intentionally do something that is outside the face of the law, there is always this delay tactics, of course, because they know we served them this bail application for about 3 weeks now. So, and they have 7 days to have file a counter or file a substantive charge, which of course they didn't do till, in fact, the counter was filed this morning.
Ogbowo also revealed that more lawyers have indicated interest in joining the defense team, describing it as a reflection of growing public interest in the case.
Okay, these lawyers are quite prepared because, of course, it's a matter that has public interest, and the allegation is everywhere. It is not something that is peculiar. Everybody knows the facts that triggered the circumstances that triggered this particular suit. And those people who are coming in sympathy, not because they want to fight. They are coming because they feel that somebody's right is unduly prevented, and they want to show solidarity to that effect.
The Speaker of the National Youth Assembly of Nigeria, Enugu State Chapter, Fidelis Ugu, urged the state government to focus more on what he described as a more pressing issue of governance.
Ordinarily, it is a civil matter, and we thank the SSG actually for following it civilly, right? So in a civilized way. But then I feel that the heartbeat of Enugu youth at this point is high, because we feel that this is not a case that should be at the forefront in our state. Achijike Mugwai, we know, is an activist. He may have his flaws, but I think the most important thing for us now is good governance. We should be much more concerned about dividends of democracy, delivering good governance, than actually wasting much time in the courts.
The case followed allegations of cyberbullying reportedly initiated by the secretary to the Enugu State government, Professor Chidebere Onya, through the Enugu State Command of the Nigerian Police Force. The matter is expected to continue after a proper filing and hearing of a fresh bail application. In Enugu, Chinemerem Ikebunam, Signature TV News.
Thank you for staying with us. Now to our first conversation for this evening. We're discussing the Lassa fever epidemic in Nigeria and its control. Lassa fever, a viral hemorrhagic disease endemic to West Africa, has been a persistent public health concern in Nigeria for decades. Nigeria has experienced recurrent outbreaks of Lassa fever, with the most recent surge reported in early 2023, affecting multiple states and resulting in significant morbidity and mortality. As of first week of March, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control has confirmed a grim milestone: over 75 lives lost in just the first 7 weeks of the year, with the case of fatality rate climbing to a staggering 23%, significantly higher than this time last year. But the numbers not only tell the story, they tell half the story. The real tragedy lies in the empty chairs at the dining table, and the frontline heroes, our doctors and nurses, who are paying the ultimate price while trying to save lives. With 28 healthcare workers infected and 3 already deceased this season, the safety of our very defense line is under siege. The Lassa fever epidemic highlights broader health system weaknesses in Nigeria, including gaps in surveillances, case management, and community engagement. The Nigerian government, with support from international partners, has initiated measures to control the outbreak, including enhanced surveillances, contact tracing, and public awareness campaigns. Our guest this evening is Dr. Chibuzo Ndiokwen. He is the chairman of Nigeria Medical Association, ENUGU State Council, and he's here to discuss what these key challenges in containing Lassa fever outbreaks in Nigeria. How effective are the current diagnostics and treatment surgeries? What are the things we ought to do to prevent the spread of Lassa fever in Nigeria? Good evening, doctor. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start off. Now, we've heard so much about, I for one, we've heard so much about Lassa fever, or they say it's rat, they say don't eat this, don't eat that, don't touch this, don't touch that. In a nutshell, can you just tell us what this Lassa fever epidemic is for persons who do not understand?
Well, like you already said, Lassa fever is a viral hemorrhagic fever. What they mean by that is that it's caused by a virus called Lassa virus, first discovered in Nigeria anyway, in a village called Lassa, a town called Lassa in Borno State, in 1969, yes. So it's a virus, it's caused by a virus, and then hemorrhage is bleeding, and then fever is fever. So it causes fever with bleeding, from different parts of your body. So it's a very deadly virus that grouped among what we call hemorrhagic fevers, hemorrhagic viruses like yellow fever, Ebola, and all that. So it's that serious of an illness, in the sense that the case fatality rate is high. Case fatality rate is, if you have this illness, what are the chances of you dying from this illness? Yeah. Exactly. So in such cases, so those viral hemorrhagic fevers have high case fatality rates, and it's endemic in this country. Endemic means that it keeps on, it never goes away. It's not something that you say that is no longer in existence in Nigeria or in Africa. It's endemic. You people live with it. Once in a while, you just keep seeing it coming up and all that. Epidemic is that at some point you have an explosion of an illness, and after some time it dies away. But this one, every dry season you will have. So it lives with us, and it's gotten from some types of rats. So and we have rats everywhere, so you can never completely eradicate it. So it's endemic in Nigeria and West African states.
So what would you say are the primary transmitters, and where are these things found? Is it just any type of rat, or are there special places these rats are found and how they're been contracted?
Okay, so it's unique to a particular, or it's transmitted by a particular type of rat. A rat called Mastomys natalensis. That's multi-mammate rat. All right, it's a rat that has a lot of mammary glands, right, on both sides of the body. So if you spread that rat, not that I advise you to go and touch rats, but if you see, it has multiple breasts all through the underside of the body on both sides. So it's not all rats that carry this Lassa virus. Multi-mammate rats are known to transmit it to humans. So we get it from humans, from contact with those rats, their urine, feces, when they get in contact with our food and all that. In some cases, in hospital settings, you can even have human-to-human transmission. But the major route of transmission is between this and humans. And some of these things happen because we have how we preserve our food. Rats can get into some of those places. Some people even spread their grains on the road, on the roofs of their houses, on the expressway. You see it sometimes. These things can come and just pee on that, and that's enough for you to get Lassa fever. So it's easily contracted in this environment because of how well or how poorly we manage our food and preserve our food. So that's the common routes of transmission.
Okay, now in recent weeks we've had reoccurring cases daily. I think there was a point that said it had spread out in Kwara, the NYSC youth camp, and there was this WhatsApp message that kept being forwarded and shared. So if you know someone, and then earlier today, or was it yesterday, I read that it's spread over 20 states in Nigeria. Now, with the knowledge that we have so far about Lassa fever, and seeing that it seems like as every year comes, as the new year comes, there is a fresh bout of Lassa fever cases. How is it we've not been able to contain it with all the knowledge and all the expertise that has been, and information that has been spread about Lassa fever?
Okay, so the challenge with Lassa fever is that, and that's why we can't, we're near impossible to eradicate it, even with our expertise, whatever we have. The challenge is that its symptoms mimic all our normal illnesses we have in this environment. Fever, body pains, sore throats, weak, all those things. All those things that you feel with malaria and even some respiratory infections. So it's difficult to diagnose in the first place because in our environment, they say common things occur commonly. So of course, we know that malaria is very endemic here, respiratory infection. So people will first of all go and treat all those things. So being able to capture the diagnosis early is a challenge because it mimics our general illnesses we have here, and those ones are more common. Secondly, I don't know how to say this so that it won't come out in a particular way. 80% of people around will have Lassa fever and they will have mild or no symptom. So that's the funny thing about it, yes. It's only about 15% that will have severe illness. So you see the thing about it. But when you now have a severe illness, your chances of dying is high. All right? Yes. So if you have 5 people that have severe illnesses, that come down with the severe illness, with bleeding and all that, 1 in 5 will die, or is from the statistics. So you find out that most of us have had Lassa fever without knowing. All through your life. Yes, all through your life you may have had symptoms of malaria. You won't know it's not malaria. You took anti-malaria and everything, and you will go. And you won't have any problem. So that's the challenging aspect of it. A lot of people will have it. 80%, 85% will have it, and they will have mild or no symptoms, and that's it. So you find that it's difficult to diagnose. It's difficult to clinically even pick. Then secondly, even the diagnosis is a challenge because the diagnosis is not just the easy, good to get, ready to use investigation, tools to get. You need very highly specialized machines, like PCR machines. Those were used during COVID. You find out that it's difficult to get those machines. It's not an easy thing to procure. Most hospitals don't have it. Mostly government hospitals supplied by NCDC most times. So you need such specialized machines to be able to diagnose Lassa fever. Like now, if you have symptoms of Lassa fever, we can't even diagnose it in 99% of hospitals in ENUGU. You can't. Maybe in UNTH, then Abakaliki, somewhere in Abakaliki, then Benin. So highly specialized centers. So that's another challenge in diagnosing Lassa fever. So you find that some people may even die without even, it's only when somebody dies, the caregivers die, the hospital staff, then people start, this is abnormal.
But for something that is so weighty, I mean, with the thing that you mentioned on these severe cases, wouldn't you say that lesser care is given to the diagnosis compared to, the magnitude of what the disease carries? Because if you say that people could live with Lassa fever and not know, right? It also could be that the like you've rightly said, the things that's supposed to help with the diagnosis are not made available. Because I will think that for some persons, before we talk about how people just go and pick medications without running proper diagnosis and all of that, that's a conversation for another day. But if I were to feel a certain when I come to the hospital and I meet a consultant and he tells me, oh, go for Lassa fever test. If it was affordable, if it was something that wasn't so rigorous, maybe we would have had lesser cases of Lassa fever. I don't know if what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying. The problem is, we live in a third world country, and by that we have a third world economy, and by that we know that we rely a lot on donor funding because, unfortunately, so you look at our health budget, how much goes to, the health sector. a lot goes to defense, and we still have issues with defense and security. How much goes to the health sector? So it's about priority and the political will to do what is necessary to make sure that we don't have those things. And if you're going to convince the international agencies or donor agencies, just like we relied on them to support us during COVID, that's the honest truth. I have to tell ourselves the simple truth. You have to give them statistics, proper statistics. And when you look at the statistics of people that die from malaria every year, so lots of people can't compare. So you understand? So they pay more attention to where they feel the burden is more, So so they may not consider it as that weighty. It may kill 10 people over a short period of time, 20 people over a short period of time. Malaria will kill children consistently across the year, 500, 1,000. So they feel that, okay, we may need to channel more here because the burden is here more. But this is also something that kills, right? But it comes in waves, so that's it. Why they even bothered about COVID was because COVID hit them like this, everywhere. And you see how they stepped up.
Yes.
And then sort of solve the problem of COVID. So I think it boils down to our governments in this part of the world to focus a lot more on, because education, health, agriculture drives every other thing. Supporting those areas is very, very vital. It's very vital in driving, economic growth and all that. So if they're able to improve services, funding for some of these things, it won't be. We will be able to solve some of these problems earlier. I won't have, even the medication itself, medications for Lassa fever or what you used to treat them. Some of these things, our health budget doesn't support some of these things.
So is it safe to say that Lassa fever is just there to kill? Because if there is provision made for malaria, made for couple other diseases, and then we don't as much as tag them epidemics because it lives amongst us, so to speak.
Yes.
Now we have Lassa fever that comes and goes, and when it comes, there is this rush, there is this wave of, there is Lassa fever, everybody take cover. But the medicals that ought to, it's enough to say don't spread your food outside. It's enough to say don't spread your food on the rooftops. Now when I do this, because these are ways I can preserve my food for the layman, there is no medical provision. Because I was about to ask, is there a cure or is there a medication one can take? Because if you're likening it to malaria, and because of those non-severe cases, you said one could take malaria medications and not even know that they've lived with Lassa fever. Yes, now, in those rare cases or those severe cases, how does these persons get treated? Or are they just left to, okay, when it reaches your turn to die, you die?
Okay, so the Lassa fever, as it comes with its own, it's seasonal. That's another thing. It's more common during the dry season. You see more. Some illnesses or some diseases are more common during the dry season. Some are common in the rainy season. It's more common during the dry season. Now, another challenge with Lassa fever is that, especially with viruses, really, most of the time when they attack your organs, the care is called supportive care. Major part of your problem is supportive care. Treatments may not necessarily be available for most illnesses, most viral illnesses. If you see HIV, if you see measles, chickenpox, hepatitis B, C, viruses are difficult to treat, respiratory viruses. So in this case for Lassa fever, the major help is supportive care, because if it attacks your organs and everything and causes you to start bleeding, from various orifices, nose, everywhere, mouth, anything, you start bleeding, you need to transfuse the person, all right? Okay. So the virus is not even what you are targeting, because the person is losing blood, you need to. So it's the complications that usually cause problem, so it damages the organ system. So you need to support the person with supportive care. Treatment, well, the various, even WHO, don't consider that we'll have a definitive cure for Lassa fever. But a drug called ribavirin, which is not so scarce, you can get it, it's available. has been known to be effective to some extent in treating people with Lassa fever, or helping in the recovery of those with Lassa fever. So especially those that are at risk of death, those that have severe disease. So it's available. The only problem with Lassa fever is, number one, reporting to hospital early. If you're treated for malaria and it's not going, the fever is not relenting, don't sit back and say that drugs are no longer working. You want to try other, or this unorthodox stuff. Come to hospital. If you start experiencing clear telltale signs like bleeding from nose, mouth, even you pee, blood, for women, blood from different orifices, it's a problem. It means the blood is thinning out, maybe the platelets are no longer working. Get to the hospital. Start an index of suspicion from the people themselves. Then, getting to hospital, of course, most doctors should know or will know. And then hospital staff, these things have to also educate the public. Know that once you see bleeding from orifices without any clear explanation, let's find a way to screen for Lassa fever, That way we reduce the chances of those that have severe disease from dying. But if it's the management is there. We support the person with fluids, blood, calories, and then the medication. And God willing, I know people that have had Lassa fever that survived. I know those I've had that died. So it's a two-way thing. So many things come into play to decide or not, to determine whether the chances of the person surviving or not. I mean, if you are pregnant and you have Lassa fever, the chances of dying is high, very high, if that child is not taken away, because that fetus, that baby is a newborn baby, a lot of dividing cells. So the more new cells you are producing, the more the viruses are infecting those new cells. So in fact, one of the major management protocol for pregnant women with Lassa fever is to remove that baby. If you don't, the woman's chance of dying is exponentially very high. Sometimes up to more than 50% chance that the woman will die. So it's a challenge. It's something that we have our own. People in Congo, Zaire, all those places, they have Ebola to deal with. You keep hearing Ebola in the news.
Yes.
We pray that Ebola doesn't come here. Case fatality rate for severe disease here is about 15% for Lassa. Ebola can be up to 68%, which means if you have it, you have the 68% chance of dying. So it's a very big issue. So that woman, that doctor, that David that saved us, because Nigeria, we know how Nigeria is.
Yeah.
Even during lockdown, we find ways.
Can be careless with so many things.
So we just thank God that.
Now let's talk about awareness, creating awareness about Lassa fever. Yes, persons who live in the urban regions may be familiar with these informations, and of course we might say, oh, we don't preserve our food under the sun, we don't spread our food on the road. Now we talk about persons who live in the rural areas, who live in the villages, who the only way they can preserve food is by spreading them on the thatches, on the roofs, most times on the road. How are these informations getting to them to, inform them of this Lassa fever and coming to eradication? We speak so much about how to eradicate mosquitoes and how to prevent mosquitoes from biting and all of that. Are there ways to eradicate this particular species of rats that causes this fever? That's too quick, because it's enough to say use your mosquito net or clear out your drainages. What is the control for this rat that carries this virus?
Yeah, it's just like this. It's the same thing as trying to eradicate ants or chickens or goats. I mean, these are animals on this planet. You can't eradicate them. I mean, in fact, Lassa fever, the rat, the multi-mammal rat, has this ability to survive in open, cleared spaces, open areas where the forests have been cleared. They have ability to survive in those areas. So, I mean, it's difficult to eradicate a species on this planet. So you put more effort in trying to prevent and then secondarily treat. it's difficult, and that is why disease is endemic. The reason disease is endemic is, is because behavioral practices encourage those things from, it's encourage the circulation of those illnesses. So it's difficult. Like you said, in the rural areas, you'd be surprised in the urban areas, people are still doing those things.
Yes.
But one of the means of trying to get it to them is these kind of platforms, awareness. I mean, speaking in public fora, or speaking at work, or speaking to schools, the media has very wide reach, TV, radio stations, people in there, when they go to radio stations to, do some awareness campaigns, you find out people from remote areas call in and all that, and you use those things to continually educate them and try to, tell them what's proper and what is not proper. I mean,
are there outreach carried out? I mean, how frequent? Because radio could go to an extent, the media could go to an extent, but there is a difference when you come to them and show them, these things. Okay, take this out, don't do this. Literal education.
A lot has been done in these outbreak-prone areas. All
Okay.
right. Yes. In a place like Enugu, I'm not aware of some of these targeted outreaches. They may have done that, but I know that a lot has been done in some of these. I give you an example. Ebonyi State is a well-known, prone Lassa fever zone, or Lassa fever belt. They have a lab there. To help in detecting them, and a lot of their people have been educated a lot because of that. So if you walk into any Ebonyi hospital, there's nobody that knows, nobody there is ignorant, or rather, a lot of them are aware about Lassa fever, a lot. So they do targeted community, engagement, outreaches, and information in those places. Most times, even by WHO, NCDC, and all that, they come into those communities and engage them directly. But some of our habits are difficult to eradicate. I mean, people still eat rats in this planet, in this country. So some of these things are, in fact, a friend of mine, or a colleague of mine, recounted how when they were growing up in Ebonyi, early in the mornings, some of those women that that go to markets in the morning with their goods, the rats that they caught in their houses, they'll come and display them in the morning. Those women will just buy them off, So some of these things encourage these things from, disappearing from the community, But a lot of targeted outreaches are being done in some of those areas, because it will take a lot to do it everywhere, But small. But the question is, how much are we imbibing what they are telling us to do? There is no place I've driven around the east that I've not seen people spreading grains on the road, on the expressway. Overnight, you just be driving, see one white or one brown, something they spread there. These rats move around everywhere. So it's health education is the most important thing. Health education. And we will also like a lot of support in the medical sector to help drive home some of these things, at least in the rural areas where we work, And it all depends on the level of support and funding that we get. But we'll continue doing our part,
About funding and creating these, or making this equipment available, what extent has the Medical Association gone towards? Because you've said that these cases are prevalent during the dry season.
Yes.
And I should think that, okay, since we know we are getting into dry season, we ought to prepare for cases as this. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So what are the preparations being put in place to help curb? Because as the day, like I mentioned earlier, by today's rating, over 20 states, and if care is not taken, it's going to go beyond 20. So what are we doing to help ourselves curb the spread of the virus?
You know why? That was why when I got this invitation, no matter how short it was an opportunity to do that, because we have this sensitization every dry season. I'm actually in pediatric infectious disease. Infectious disease is my specialty, so it's actually my specialty. And I couldn't pass up the opportunity to continue talking about it, you know. We have a lot of symposia, lecture series and all that. You know, most of the time it reaches the medical community. You know, probably doesn't get to the, you know, the people themselves, all right? So any opportunity we have, because it's difficult for us to wake up every, you know, we try and do it, but, you know, we can't continuously do it in perpetuity, all right? I know that Lassa fever doesn't, which is why this thing is good, because it may not get the media attention that it deserves. More so during dry season, the more serious things that we see are diarrheal diseases. You know, that's another thing that's very common during dry season, and it kills a lot of kids. So a lot of emphasis is usually placed on that, community engagement, community health education, women. What do you do? Give ORS and all that. How do you know whether this child is now too bad? And so a lot of emphasis is placed on that diarrheal diseases during dry season and Lassa fever. But you know, any opportunity we have, to collaborate with anybody. We've done some works, you know, over the years, but I mean, it's difficult to gauge how much impact it on the community.
Are there collaborations with the international health organizations, WHO, UNICEF, you said, you know, to help assist so far?
So many collaborations. A colleague of mine last year, because of the works he did on Lassa fever, was invited to Côte d'Ivoire to come and present, you know, the work, how far, you know, what the, you know, journey so far in this parts of the world, in this part of the country. You know, it was an interesting thing for the, I think it was UNICEF or so, I can't remember exactly, but it's an international organization that invited them, you know, to see look at our statistics and see how well we have done in this area. So some of them, once we present data, they are interested. How do we now improve this data? All right, No, locally here, we can only work with, once in a while, we work with WHO. They come around. In fact, they've come on multiple occasions to come to the hospital, train doctors on some of these. Yes. WHO has an office here. They've come quite a couple of times, all right? We've even gone to schools during our 2024 Physicians Week, in ENUGU Physicians Week. We went to schools, gave them health talks. We went to the Wayne School, went to Command Day Secondary School, you know, addressed the children, told them about some of this. One of the things we talked about was Lassa fever. Yeah, so we'll just try the best we can, you know, in our own small way.
All right. Thank you so much. I just hope that, like you've said, most of the things that happen to us is our own doing, with the way we live, with the way we carry. I mean, it's one thing to tell someone don't do, but because they believe that, oh, this is how our forefathers have lived.
Yeah.
And our forefathers spread their foods outside and nothing happened to them. Now you're telling us. But we understand that these things are being said, these informations are being passed out for our own good, for our own benefit. Yes. We'll keep preaching, we'll keep speaking the word, and hopefully at some point we'll get to look back and say, okay, there was when Lassa fever was killing people, but now it has been taking down a huge note. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining this evening.
Thank you very much.
Do have yourself a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much.
All right, this is still Signature Evening. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back.
We are local.
International communities
Just finished the
Where the main market is in chaos. People
We are national.
Those in support of this motion as amended, say aye.
Aye. We have taken the vote by default.
We are international.
Israeli airstrikes.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
Welcome back. Now, this is our What's Trending segment. Now, our first trending story for tonight. A recent video currently circulating on social media shows Reno Omokri alongside Sheyi Tinubu openly praising the governance of President Tinubu. The footage has sparked intense reactions, especially given Omokri's history as a vocal political commentator with strong positions in the past. The big question many Nigerians are asking is, what does this mean? Is this a genuine shift in perspective based on current performance? Is it political realignment? Could it be strategic engagement across party lines? Or is it simply an example of how political views can evolve over time? In a democracy, should we see this as betrayal, growth, pragmatism, or healthy political dialogue? Let's take a look at the video.
Well, I believe in the City Boy movement, and I'm going to tell you why. Recently, some people who should know better said that Nigeria is now worse off than it was 10 years ago. Now, let me take your minds back to what was happening 10 years ago. In the Niger Delta, we had Niger Delta Avengers. They had bombed the oil and gas sector. Nigeria had gone from 1.9 million barrels per day to less than 1 million barrels per day. In the southeast, you had secessionists who had put that region almost to a standstill. 128 police stations were shut down. We moved down to the northwest, and then from Abuja to Kaduna, you could not drive. Every day it was a death trap. People were being abducted, were being kidnapped. In southern Kaduna, there was a genocide. People seem to have forgotten that. In the northeast, in Maiduguri, you had about 7 local governments where Boko Haram were in control. Now, because we have a very short memory in this country, we tend to forget about these things. All of these things have passed away. In the Nigerian Defense Academy, Boko Haram went there. Our Defense Academy killed soldiers. Boko Haram attacked the Presidential Guard of Brigades in Buhari. All of these things don't happen. 600 terrorists went with their motorbikes to Kuje prison, freed 849 of their colleagues. All of these things don't happen again. 10 years ago, states could not pay salaries. What's happening right now? Each state in Nigeria is getting at least 200% what they were getting 10 years ago. Somebody said the president is using jazz. No, the president is using performance. We've had 12 cycles of trade surpluses in this country. 12 cycles of GDP growth in this country. The IMF, the World Bank, they've projected that our GDP is going to grow by 4.44% this year. And then people are saying that the president is using jazz. No, it is performance. You watching this, have you ever slept in a petrol station looking for fuel? Have you even experienced fuel scarcity? If you're a student, ASU strike is like a thing of the past, ancient history. Why? Because we have a leader right now who knows how to handle this country because he has gone through the stages. That's why I believe in the City Boy movement. I ask you, these people who are saying that Nigeria was better 10 years ago, let them right now, because if you remember last year, I drove with journalists without any security from Abuja to Kaduna. People can do that right now. In southern Kaduna, people are no longer being killed. Yes, we have security issues localized. But I'm going to tell you, in December, 1.2 million tourists visited Nigeria, Lagos for Dirty December. Not one was killed. Not one robbery. Not one domestic incident. So I'm telling you, Nigeria is better right now. We've gone from a foreign reserve of less than 30 billion. Right now, we have a foreign reserve of 50 billion, approaching 51 billion. In 2 years, President Tinubu has added $67 billion to the economy. What is there not to like? That's why I support the City Boy movement. And I'm urging you, remember where we're coming from so that you remember where we are today. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you.
All right, that's Reno Omokri, a man who had, at some point a couple of years ago, called out the current president and said, see me, sue me if you said that what I said is not what you did. But we see him now, speaking from another side of his mouth. Now, netizens has reacted to some, to the video, and we'll take a look at some of these comments. All right. The first comment is, I believe everyone has the right to support any political party they choose. But as for you, do you really think they can trust you? I still remember what you did during the ENTAS period and how you vowed never to support this party and how you called the president different names. People like you lose respect because it always seems like money is the only thing that matters. At this point, you are no longer relevant to society. And that's, a comment from Nigeria. And that's the much you can take this night. So we'll come your way again tomorrow. I am Princess Ken Ochoma. Good night.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
New every morning on Signature TV, we open the day for you with needed energy, information, and required vibes to shape your day. From sizzling snippets of stories in various areas of life to intriguing conversations with net worth guests.
When you have people who have no track record becoming your leaders, you have a problem.
There's no outstanding gratuity when Obi took over from me. I left in all the accounts of Anambra State 13.8 billion for him.
Your day cannot be complete without Signature Morning on weekdays and Signature New Day on weekends. There is no better way to start your day except Signature Morning and Signature New Day every day on Signature TV.
Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Health is more than a diagnosis. It's your lifestyle, your choices, and your future. Join us on Inside Health, your weekly deep dive into the stories, science, and solutions shaping your well-being. From expert interviews to real-life journeys of healing and hope, we cover it all.
One of the complications of cancer management or treatment is they have some of them, at one point in time, you see them having anemia. Okay, so you see them at times being transfused. But at the same time, you come in with a diet.
Nutrition, mental health, innovations in medicine, fitness, and everyday wellness. Whether you're managing a condition, staying informed, or just living your best life, Inside Health is your trusted guide.
I'm Tigiti Agorum, and I'll be with you every week on Inside Health, only on Signature TV.
Hello and thanks for joining us. With me to talk about the work of UNDP in Rwanda is Fatmata Loveta Sese, the resident representative of UNDP in Rwanda. Glad to have you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me in your studio today.
Well, how would you describe the work that the UNDP is doing in Rwanda?
Yes, thank you so much. It's a real opportunity for us to talk about UNDP's work in Rwanda, but I have to start by giving you the context on how we work in Rwanda. First of all, the government sets its development agenda. And currently in Rwanda, there's a national strategy for transformation 2 that the government is implementing. Us as UNDP, one of the development partners, what we do is we accompany government. We say UNDP can never be at the front, not even at the side. We are behind government's efforts on development. So the way we do that is then the UN system in Rwanda develops a cooperation framework. Within after that cooperation framework, we have what we call the country program document that outlines in the next 4 to 5 years what are the key areas that are already in the NST2 that we're going to implement together with governments. And I can tell you some of the three key areas for us, and a fourth which is a cross-cutting. In Rwanda, we work broadly on governance issues. Actually, I just came back from the launch of the Rwanda Governance Scorecard, which is a national system of monitoring governance as well as service delivery, one that is very unique to Rwanda, accountability to self. And within governance, we work with the Ministry of Justice on access to justice and rule of law. We work on national unity interventions. That's one key area. We have a second important pillar, which looks at environment and climate change, financing biodiversity, what policies are required to do so, what programs we implement, and we have a long list of things that we do with government in that. In fact, we're just getting ready to go to COP30. We are, together with the government of Rwanda, we are launching a biodiversity window. A third key area of work for UNDP is in small and medium enterprises, work around youth entrepreneurship, youth employment, Rwanda's positioning to explore the Africa Continental Free Trade Area around trade, so SMEs in general. Then our cross-cutting pillar area of work is now around macroeconomic policy support that we provide, research, evidence to actually influence policy. We do a lot of technical briefs, and we focus so much on digitalization to ensure inclusion, leaving no one behind, and at the same time, the government's agenda to ensure Rwanda is fully digitalized, all of its public services. Also, that's a cross-cutting issue. Gender equality is another area that we work in, and very recently we just ensured that within the Rwanda Standards Board, the gender standards are being incorporated, and a number of companies, private companies and one government institution, was actually awarded seal, the gender seal. So gender equality is also another area of work. So these are things we do which require us working with a number of government institutions as well as other development partners and our colleague UN agencies in Rwanda.
I can see two key points in all this. One is collaboration, and the other is a lot of planning. Your work impacts, and this collaboration impacts on development in Rwanda. Do you think it's something other African countries should be looking at exploring?
Yeah, you've actually touched on very important points. There's hardly anything one stakeholder can do by themselves and achieve results. Collective results and collective impact is what we gear towards. So without collaboration, working with government, other development partners, we wouldn't see some of the results that we have seen. But one thing that I have to point out is in Rwanda, the government sets the development agenda. And when they do so after extensive consultation, review of previous plans. So by the time they agree these are the areas of emphasis, these are really the areas that have the catalytic impact to reach everybody else. So collaboration is key, partnership is really central. You also touched on what many other countries can learn from Rwanda. And one of the few countries in which I've worked in Africa, that I see they have a separate institution, the Rwanda Cooperation Institution, Rwanda Cooperative Initiative, RCI, that is especially geared towards providing the opportunity for other countries to learn from Rwanda. And I'm going to use this opportunity to say that on the 11th and 12th of December, the RCI, together with us, we are collaborating with them, there's going to be a conference on South-South cooperation. We are in over 70 missions that have come to Rwanda from different countries, and not only in Africa, other parts of the world, to learn from a number of the homegrown solutions from Rwanda, we're going to showcase what they have done with what they have come to learn. So there is definitely a lot that many other countries from Africa can learn from Rwanda. But one thing I also like about Rwanda, Rwandans also want to learn from other countries. They're never thinking where they are at this level, that's it, and it's all enough. And that's really the commitment to development that inspires us, myself and my colleagues in UNDP. Because we see the country is progressing, doing very well, but they're not settling. They're like, there's more to do. And every other country that visits, that comes to learn from Rwanda, we also learn from them. And this conference, that's why we're calling it South-South, in which countries come in to showcase what they've learned from Rwanda and how they've implemented it. And Rwanda also taking notes of experiences that they will share. So there's so much to learn from this country. I have to tell you personally, I actually feel I'm in a workshop working in Rwanda. And I tell my colleagues, I am learning way much more than I can ever give to a country. I look forward to where I'll take all of those lessons some other day.
You know, one of the things you said that makes a whole lot of sense to me, you've said that more than 2 times in this interview, that Rwanda determines the areas and what they want to do in terms of development, which is absent in a lot of developing countries, where they leave everything to donors, agencies to come with their own solutions and come with what they think is the need of the country. How does this kind of posture, how does it help a developing country?
Yes. No, you've asked a question that requires us taking a step back to reflect on where Rwanda is coming from. Even in our own individual lives, in our households, you go through a certain experience. Say, for example, children lose a parent. There are 2 options and 2 ways often where they respond. Either they become completely despondent and give up in life and think all is lost, there's nothing I can do, I don't have my parents. Some other children become so determined that I know what my parents would have wanted me to be, and I'm going to be that. Rwanda went through a dark moment on the genocide against the Tutsis. That experience, in my opinion, from what I've seen for the 1.5 years that I'm working here, has made this country so resolute never to go back, has made this country so resolute, the country and its people and the government, so resolute to do everything to prove that small in size does not mean you cannot have big ideas and achieve them. So many countries, and you don't have to have an experience similar to Rwanda to have that resolution. There's just a commitment to say a better life is what we also want for ourselves, and we can pursue that life. So that history has made them so determined, so resilient. And within that, one thing that I really also admire is we believe in cooperation, we believe in multilateralism, and this is what I'm interpreting from Rwanda. We believe we can learn a lot of lessons from others, but we're not waiting. We will set our agenda, meet us along the way, and you work with us. And I'm really glad, myself and my colleagues in the UNDP Rwanda office, we have seen that determination, that commitment, that resolve. And we are so committed to work with government to show indeed that what is possible in partnership. But before that partnership, there is sovereignty. You identify what you need. No one can come to your house and tell you how you should set your chairs and your tables better than the way you can do it. If anything, they can help you move the chair together. And that's really the beauty about working on development in Rwanda, in which we see the resolve, and it really cascades at all levels, I have to say that. I have been fortunate to travel to over almost 20 districts out of the 30 districts in Rwanda. Wherever I have been, at the local government level, at the cell level, I have found committed government officials, committed individuals, committed Rwandans who are willing every day to make a difference and to make Rwanda better than it was.
And where do you think leadership plays a role in all this that you're telling me?
Okay. I'm going to hope you're not going to ask me a question that gets into anything deeper, but we know that we say that often that, and the only thing I'm going to say is, yes, leadership is important in everything that we do. But we have to say this as well. Leadership does not mean the person at the head alone. It means leadership at all levels. And I'll tell you an example with my colleagues in here in UNDP Rwanda, where I'm the resident representative. We have a dynamic deputy resident representative, and we have team leads. No matter how strong my leadership is, if all my colleague team leads, everybody else that needs to play a part in UNDP does not play that part, it's not going to work. So it's a combination. Wherever people find themselves, they're a leader. And I'll give you an example. I was in Roma, Ghana, one of the districts in the eastern province of Rwanda. And in the evening, I was just taking a walk. I saw this beautiful government building. It has electricity. It was clean and neat. I know where I'm coming from. Then I decided to take a picture. I'm like, wow, I just want to see. It's so impressive. You leave the city, Kigali, you go to the eastern province. It's all clean and beautiful. I wanted to take a picture. And I did. And then the security guard comes to me, walks up to me and says, why are you taking a picture without permission? I was like, wow, I'm so sorry. I apologize. And so on. I'm like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to delete the picture? And so on. It's like, no, I just needed you to at least request my permission. I was so impressed with that single act because it means that's his area he's guarding. He has authority over that area. Nobody comes and just trespasses. So that's the kind of commitment. When I say there's commitment to accountability, to owning for results, for being responsible in the area where that's leadership, in my opinion. So, and that's what you find in Rwanda. Yes, leadership at the top is committed and devoted and really wants a better life for everyone else, and we can see that in the results. I was going to go into the poverty figures. You can see that in the results. But in addition, every other Rwandan that I've interacted with really takes responsibility. I know that a colleague of mine mentioned to me that their daughter was telling them, you can't just throw trash that way, because that is taught in school. Cleanliness is taught in school. And it's leadership at all levels, and that's really what we see here. Institutions. I have just been impressed with the commitment of ministers in this country. You don't struggle to meet ministers, especially when it has something to do with their work. Ready and willing. That's leadership. So it's really leadership that has, yes, could have started from the top, but it has permeated into the system, that we think there's sustainability around accountability, leadership, and the desire for results and better lives for everyone.
A lot of the good things you've talked about Rwanda and what's going on in Rwanda. One will talk about the bottom line.
Yes.
How does all this translate to better life for the ordinary Rwandan? Are the figures changing? Are they optimistic numbers? Are we looking at a better future based on these activities that are taking place today?
Okay. As I am painting this beautiful picture about Rwanda, one thing this question reminds me of is how Rwandans hold themselves to such high standards, and they'll tell you we're not there yet. So they are aware there are challenges that needs to be addressed, for example, in human capital building, in education, not only pass rates, not only enrollment, but the quality of education. So there are discussions around what needs to improve here and there. And that's also something that is admirable. Like many come, many want to learn from me, but you're saying we're not there yet, we can't settle. I met a Rwandan recently. I was in Kenya, and we were talking about digitalization and the AI and rolling and so on, and there's actually an article that mentioned 4 countries in Africa that are leading in that direction, which is South Africa, Kenya, Rwanda, and Nigeria. And there was like, but we're not there. And this Rwandan was telling me, I'm like, I really like when I see that. Because for many other countries, we think Rwanda is making such progress, and that's true by many standards. But at the same time, you say we can't settle. We have other countries that have something that we don't have, and we really want to get there. So that's really the Rwanda that we're painting. So I'm saying, how do we see this is translating? There is a recent figure, EICV7, which is the household poverty data that was collected, and an analysis made to document what is the poverty rate currently in Rwanda. This was done together with the World Bank, the National Institutes of Statistics, NISR, produced the data, and it shows that between 2018 to 2024, poverty figures have declined from 38% to 27.4%. That's about 11 percentage point poverty rate decline in about, 6 years. That's a clear result that shows that what we see is really translating and trickling. And today I actually just learned, in fact, 27.4% was not the target that they wanted to reduce poverty within this time period. It was even 17%. I was like, wow, a country holding itself accountable to even, yes, we celebrate our success and the progress we've made, but we have a long way to go. So we see it translated, but also within those poverty figures, there are realities that are a little bit masked. It's not the same in urban areas as well as in rural areas. So we see a lot of emphasis from the government to work in the rural areas to actually leave no one behind. So yes, in my opinion, and the time that we've been here and the work we're doing together with my colleagues and UNDP Rwanda, we see that progress has been made, and there's definitely translation of that development progress to getting life better for people. There's a way to go, but progress can be definitely commended.
I really wish we had a lot of time, because I'm really excited about the things I'm hearing. But there's one signature initiative that UNDP is participating in, actually driving, and that's what you've called the Timbuktu Pan-African Initiative.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I actually saved the best for the last. I'm glad you asked me about Timbuktu, because it's something not only close to my heart, but very close and dear to the heart of our leadership of UNDP globally, as well as our leadership in UNDP Africa, Madam Ahuna Iziakunwa. And this is a flagship initiative for UNDP, and it's recognized as such. We can describe it in simple ways. There are startups in Africa, many of them rising but falling even before they can grow, because they don't see the light, they don't get access to capital. It's about youth. We talk about the youth bulge on the continent all the time, and how if we harness that, a lot can be better for many countries. About innovation. Who are the most innovative population group in our times other than youth? So Timbuktu is about, let's put our youth to work. Let's use their innovative energy. Let's ensure capital meets them with their ideas so that they can grow their economies. Youth are already playing a key role, but this is about enhancing and shining a brighter light on what they do. Timbuktu is in 3 stages. We have the Unipods. I'm hoping you visited the Unipod, or you plan to visit the Unipod to include this in this interview, which is harnessing the university students' potential. Many of us go to universities and study subjects maybe that our parents liked more than what we liked, but we have passions and we have dreams and we have innovations that is not even the same thing we're studying. But through the Timbuktu initiative of UNDP, we've been able to create an opportunity and a space where students can come and try out their ideas in creative industry, whether they're singing or play music, or they can come and try out their ideas in tailoring. They can come and try out their ideas in how mechanics of especially electric-powered vehicles. They can try out their ideas in agriculture, hydroponics. They have a space that they can come in a free time, and any student, not even only from the University of Rwanda where we have the Unipod, but others can come and learn. And I know there's a student in the University of Rwanda now enrolled who was never a student before, but had come there to do video gaming and so on. And he's been able to do a virtual reality visit that the university has even given him an acceptance to be there. Many more are creating so many things that through the Timbuktu initiative, we are hoping to take these to the market. There's a second level of the initiative, which are thematic hubs. And we have 10 of these thematic hubs across Africa. I'm going to start with Rwanda, where we have the Health Tech Hub. In Nigeria, we have the FinTech Hub. And in Kenya, we have the Green Tech Hub around climate change. In Zambia, our colleagues are working on Mindtech. In Ethiopia, on Manufacturing Hub. And many more, 5 others. In each of these hubs, when we have a student in a Unipod who creates something that is around health, they get connected to the Health Tech Hub. And then we have the Timbuktu Foundation, that is then doing the bigger talks and discussions with private sector, venture capitalists, who now, after we've done the incubation of these programs from the Unipod to the thematic hubs, can now really increase their potential for access to market and actually help them mobilize the capital that is needed. So it's a revolution, that's how we're calling it. With a 10-year plan to mobilize $1 billion of capital and take a number of these startups to scale across the continent. It's new, it started, it's 2 or 3 years ago, but we are really beginning to see the fruits of it and the potentials of it on the continent. And I just want to mention one of the startups that we worked with at the Health Tech Hub. It's a Rwandan-based company, a young man who has actually developed or worked on a robot that collects vital signs. So you step on the robot and it collects your heart rate, your pressure level, and so on, without you having an interaction with a health practitioner. That is itself, in the period of pandemics, we know what happened in COVID and the fear of going to the hospital. That already is an innovation. And there's a lot of interest already. When he does that, he's able to collect health data So the Rwanda Health Data Center is already collaborating with him so that that data can be sent. So you see how one idea of a young man who has started doing robots could never have come to light if UNDP's Timbuktu initiative had not taken this individual and his business, giving him a training, and that's some of the things that we do, both business skills, how to develop and how to pitch on the businesses and how to increase and get to scale. And now we're just looking forward to one of the banks, hopefully, that will be financing this gentleman and his business. It's actually called a NOSBOT.
Financing is something I've been thinking about, since I heard about Timbuktu. And I'm asking, how are the African countries getting a buy-in into what UNDP is doing with the Timbuktu initiative?
Yeah.
How are they helping to bring the funding? Because $1 billion is a lot of money.
That's true.
And I've been wondering where that's going to come from.
It's going to happen, I tell you for sure. And let me tell you how. And the only way I can explain the how is the example of the president of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame, who has already set aside $3 million for this Timbuktu initiative. We are looking forward to many other presidents saying, UNDP, we believe in this idea of investing in youth. We believe in this idea of taking their businesses to scale. We believe in our youth. Through you, with you, together, we can actually do that investment. The journey of 1,000 steps begins with one very first step. The government of Rwanda is doing that. I'm sure through your channel, many other governments in Africa will hear about this, and they will see the potential that this holds for their countries as well as for the continent.
Okay. When you live here, eventually.
Unfortunately, yes.
What do you look forward to leaving behind, you and your colleagues? What kind of Rwanda are you going to leave behind?
Oh, wow. That's an interesting question on the legacy. You already want me to foresee what my legacy is going to be. First of all, my legacy can never be individual. It's going to be together with my colleagues, the team, the UNDP Rwanda, where I have been very fortunate to take over a colleague who was here, the resident representative, Max, did a great job, fantastic job, great team. So I'm actually riding, I always say I'm riding on his glory at the same time. So I also want to be able to leave an office that is really considered by the government as one of its key development partners because of the expertise that we bring to the table, because of the planning that we do, and because of concrete examples of pilots that they can take to scale. So we want to leave a UNDP Rwanda, a Rwanda that is currently at 7.88% of GDP growth, to a Rwanda that is 13%, 14% GDP growth. And that's because this country has set a target. I don't even call it an ambitious target. Has set itself a target of reaching upper middle income country by 2035, which is in 10 years. So we and myself and my colleagues, we're working earnestly to see how do we accompany governments to reach that ambition. And that's the kind of government, that's the kind of country, and that's the kind of UNDP that I think I would like to leave, that we can proudly say we worked together with the government of Rwanda in those years of that target, and this is how far, together with our journey, that they got to.
A very tall order.
Yes.
But one that I think is very achievable.
Thank you.
Thank you so
very
much.
It was a real pleasure. It was a real pleasure.
Well, I've been speaking with Fatmata Lovetta Sese, resident rep of UNDP in Rwanda. I'm Vin Martin Obiora Ilo. Thanks for joining us.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
Bright and early, as the day breaks, as the newspaper headlines trail the stories that shape the day, we at Signature TV trail the headlines that trail the day. We interrogate the headlines. We analyze the stories that make the headlines.
WAEC is overrated, and they even overrated reserve, and when people see it, they are insensitive of some Nigerian children who have never had what they call CBT.
With passion and emotion, we drive the conversation to change a narrative.
Let nobody be deceived by Nigerian high level of performing in agriculture export.
We are still where we are.
Newspaper review on Signature TV every morning on Signature Morning, weekdays, and Signature New Day, weekends. Newspaper review on Signature TV. We do not just review the headlines.